All right, y'all. What's up, man? Good morning. Good morning. It's early today. It's like 8:57 in the morning. 8:55 to be exact. I always keep my watch and all the clocks in my house 8 to 9 minutes fast. Sometimes 11, 12 minutes fast, so that I'm never late for appointments. If you want to be successful, you got to be careful about your time. Gonna be publishing Stigmatism in My Soul. The podcast was sold. Sean Xavier Gumby Jr. and myself, Sean Xavier Gumby Sr., do not wish to slander, libel, or defame anybody or wish to cause any harm. When we speak about the topic that we're going to talk about today, we're coming from actual court documents. I want to apologize to the people. On one of the videos I did the other day, I said that if you wanted to get a copy of the paperwork that I had, to email me. Too many people email me. Too many people wanted copies. So I'm not going to do that. I'm rescinding that offer because I got so many requests and y'all wanted me to give you the information for free, even though it's probably like 400 pages and I would have to go to Kinko's and make copies. And you know what I'm saying? That would have become a distraction to what it is that I do. So I apologize. I'm not going to do that for you. You got to get the information the best way you know how, the same way I got mine. All right, so we got a good one, right? October 19th, 2016. After Tammy Cowins gets off the stand, because remember, we did Tammy Cowins' cross-examination. I think the date was October 17th, 2016. And this is the Frank's hearing, cross-examination and direct examination of Tammy Cowins. And today, Tammy Cowins is done. We did that one. Today, we're going to do Keith Cromer. Now, Keith Cromer is the 5-0 nigga, is the cop, the DEA agent, the group supervisor for Atlanta DEA, who was the controlling agent of Tammy Cowins after Jack Harvey retired, right? What we do know is that she and Keith Cromer engaged, they met around 2011, and they immediately began to engage in a illicit sexual relationship, right? Which is against DEA policy for a special agent to be romantically involved with a confidential source. No good. Right? That is way out of bounds because I make the best coffee in the world, man. I make the best coffee. That is out of bounds for a DEA agent, for a government agent, a DEA agent to have a sexual, intimate relationship with a confidential source, because it taints the information. Right? It just makes anything that them two say inadmissible, and makes it just totally skeptical. So we're going to get into that. So on October 19th, 2016, they had subpoenaed Keith Cromer, saying, yo, nigga, you got to come testify. Him and his attorney in Atlanta, all of this is going down in St. Louis. Him and his attorney in Atlanta say, yo, can we do it by phone? They was like, bet, you could do it by phone. So they get Cuffy's defense team, Welby. Welby is dope, man. So all four, this is the attorney for Gibbs. I forget my man's name. They just have it as Gibbs on here. But 4 of them are on under indictment. The United States versus Deion Gatlin, Andre Rush, Tim Rush, and Gibbs, right? But this is, I think this is Cuffy's Frank's hearing, but it may be all four, but it don't matter. But the attorney for Gibbs, who is Welby, is the one who begins to cross-examine Cromer first, and they're doing it by phone. So right off the rip, Cromer's lawyer's name is Thomas, right? Let me give you his name. This here. Hold on, I got it now. Don't go nowhere. Don't hang up. Don't hang up. What's my man's name? All right, I don't have it up here, but I know who it is. His name is Thomas. First name, I don't know his first name. So the judge is like, yo, y'all on the phone? You good? They're like, yeah. But right off the rip, Cromer's lawyer, throws it out on the floor like, yo, I could barely hear you. I can't hear you that good, but let's go. Right, so he says right off the bat, the judge asks, is everybody here? This is Mr. Thomas. Yes, Your Honor, I'm having some difficulty hearing you, but yes, I'm representing Mr. Cromer. So they take off. So right off the rip, Welby goes right in. He asks him, are you appearing in court via telephone today pursuant to a subpoena that was issued by the United States District Court in the Eastern District of Missouri? Cromer says yes. So bang, my man Welby go right at him. Boom. In August, this is Welby. In August of 2012, did you deliberately provide false material information to DEA agents in St. Louis, knowing it would be included in an affidavit for a Title III wiretap of Cuffy's telephone? His lawyer, Cromer's lawyer, steps in and says, can we have a moment, Your Honor? And the judge is asking, was that Mr. Thomas? Was that Mr. Thomas? I need Mr. Cromer to answer the question. Mr. Thomas, I'm sorry, Your Honor. The judge, Mr. Thomas, I said I need Mr. Cromer to answer the question. Mr. Thomas, I understand, Your Honor. Inaudible conversation on the telephone. They scrambling, covering up the receiver. Mr. Thomas, may I just have a moment, please? The judge, okay. Mr. Cromer is conferring with his counsel. Mr. Thomas, yes, Your Honor. The court, is he unable to answer the question? Mr. Thomas, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I think we're ready. The judge, do you need Mr. Welby to repeat his question? Cromer says, no, ma'am. Based on the advice of counsel, I am invoking my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer that question. So when you invoke your Fifth Amendment right, that means you choose to remain silent so that you do not incriminate yourself with your own testimony. Welby come right back at him. He stepped right back to him. Ain't no let up in his setup, right? In August 2012, did you tell CS1 or Tammy Cowins to deliberately provide false material information to DE agents in St. Louis, knowing that information would be included in an affidavit for Title III wiretap for Cuffy's phone? Here they go again, having a side conversation on the phone, inaudible conversation on the phone. Welby, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding your answer. One of the other lawyers jump in, Herman. He's the lawyer for Andre Rush. He jumps in. Your Honor, it sounds to me, Cromer answers. The answer is no. Their answer is no. Welby says no. Cromer, no. Question, Welby, did you tell CS1 to tell Demetrius Flannery of Big Meech that she should tell DEA agents that Big Meech was going to receive a cut of the proceeds of drug dealings between Cuffy and Big Meech and Fidel Suarez? The judge, Mr. Thomas? Mr. Thomas, yes, Your Honor. The judge, I cannot have you interfering with the testimony of this witness. I understand that there are matters that your client may need to confer with you on with respect to any potential criminal exposure he might have, but I need to have him answer the questions without interference from you. Not good, man. Mr. Thomas, I understand, Your Honor, and for the record, I'm advising my counsel my client to invoke, and that's the only conferring we're doing. I'm sorry, I'll try to proceed in accordance with that. The judge, we have lawyers who want to make a record. Mr. Herman jumps in, the lawyer for Andre Rush. Right off the bat, I'm going to object to continuing this hearing because it was presented to us that this witness was going to take the Fifth Amendment, and that's the only reason we agreed to present his testimony or allow his testimony to be by telephone. But if we're going to engage in an extended examination of this witness and he's going to deny the questions, he's going to subsequently answer the questions, I want him in the courtroom here. Mr. Welby, I agree, Your Honor. The prosecutor, Hogue. This is the prosecutor, the U.S. attorney, going against Welby and Herman. Absolutely. I think he's waived his Fifth Amendment rights by asserting an answer. Mr. Thomas, Your Honor, I'm sorry, we're not able to hear over the phone. The judge, if you would go to a microphone, the prosecution, the U.S. attorney, we agree, Your Honor, by answering the question, I think he's waived his Fifth Amendment rights and they are entitled to have him be here in court to answer questions in respect to the inquiry here. The judge, hold on, y'all. Dropping my papers on the floor. Let me get my papers right. Got to stay in order. Organization is the key to success. This is the judge. I agree. Mr. Thomas, what the lawyer said, in case you didn't hear it, it was that Mr. Cromer, Agent Cromer, was permitted by this court to appear by telephone, and that was by agreement with the understanding that he was going to invoke his Fifth Amendment right. He clearly just waived that right with respect to the question that was put to him by Mr. Welby, the very second question. In light of that, I'm ordering that Agent Cromer appear in court in person so that he can be questioned properly by all the lawyers. He is under subpoena. This is on a Wednesday. October 19, 2016 is a Wednesday. Mr. Welby jumps in. Yes, Your Honor. The judge. And so he must appear here. How soon can you get here, Agent Cromer? This hearing is going until tomorrow, but we'll extend it to Friday if need be. Mr. Thomas, Your Honor, he said he can be there by Friday. The judge, all right. Well, I think he needs to plan to be here by Friday. I didn't plan to go into Friday. How does that work for all of the lawyers involved? Mr. Welby says, I'll make it work, Your Honor. The prosecution will make it work. We need him here by 8:30 a.m. Friday, the 21st. Mr. Thomas, we will be there, Your Honor. I will be there, Your Honor. So this dude, man, this Cromer dude, his, look at how he looked, man. Look at how he looked. He lost in this whole situation, man. look at how he looked. You know, he's gotten fired, right? He was investigated by the Office of of Inspector General, Office of Professional Responsibility, right? Had an illicit, out of bounds relationship with a confidential informant as her controlling agent, paid her monies over and above what work that she did not do, gets fired, and when he's questioned, he's afforded the latitude where he tells them right off the rip, yo, I'm just gonna plead the fifth, man, because I don't want to say nothing that's gonna incriminate me, man. So I'm pleading the fifth. They say, all right, the judge say, all right, bet. All the lawyers, all right, bet, plead the fifth. You ain't gotta come. We could do this by phone. We could save ourselves some time. So when they get him on the phone, Welby's money, man. He asked him questions right off the bat, right? And Cromer's lawyer is not cognizant. He's not in the game. He should be saying, Your Honor, my client agrees to plead the fifth, wishes to plead the fifth, right off the bat. So then all the questions stops. Welby asks him a question. They go to fumbling, I can't hear, and then he answers a question. And I think once he answers a question, all the lawyers that are watching this go in the comment section and add some color to that point, to that part. When a client pleads the Fifth Amendment, right? But then they answer a question, does that waive their right? Because I think that's what she said, right? So next up, so that's my point, man. So the dude, man, so they tell him, look at here, nigga. It's Wednesday. You be here Friday. We won't put you on the stand. Now I didn't look at that. I got the paperwork for the Friday hearing. I ain't look at that. I just wanted to get this one out the way. We're gonna do the other one later. So the next witness they call up is David Aguilar, who was the subordinate, a TFO, a task force officer in DEA Atlanta under Keith Cromer. They start talking to him. They step to him. Welby steps to him. Welby on Aguilar. On or about August 28th of 2012, did you falsify DEA documents or records to justify unwarranted payments of DEA funds to Tammy Cowins? Aguilar, sir, respectfully, under the advice of counsel, I exercise my right not to answer under the Fifth Amendment. Welby ain't worried about that. He stepped to him again. Yo, on or before August the 12th, 2012, did you create false DEA documents or records to give Tammy Cowins credit for work she did not do or for information she did not provide? Again, sir, I invoke my Fifth Amendment. Welby, stepping to him. No let up on the setup. On or before the 28th of 2012, were you aware that Tammy Cowins was in an inappropriate sexual relationship with Group Supervisor Keith Cromer? Again, sir, I plead the fifth. Officer Aguilar, Welby, would it be your intention to exercise your right to the Fifth Amendment to all questions of this nature? That is correct. So he pleads the fifth. He gets down off the stand. Now they begin to cross-examine St. Louis DEA agents. Now, let's explain the motivation for the defense and the government as far as this affidavit, the first affidavit that Tammy Cowins did, where she signed, the sworn affidavit that she signed when she wasn't in fear for her life, when she was unknown, when she was not exposed, when her cover wasn't blown, when she had just been praised by Jack Harvey for her excellent work in the taking down of Terry White. She had no reason at this point to be unreliable. She was stamped, certified by Jack Harvey as reliable. And even in the first affidavit, when we went over the information in a couple of videos back, Lang, who debriefed her after August the 5th, when all the phone calls came in, he debriefed her August the 6th, and she confirmed everything that she put in that initial affidavit, which she wasn't done under duress or under stress or under fear for her life, was done not under the fear for her daughter's life. The other two affidavits that she did, that she never signed, never submitted, was when she started to receive threats on her life, on her safety, on her daughter's safety, and on Big Meech's safety in prison. Then she switched the whole thing up, right? But at this point, the affidavit they're talking about is that first joint where she expressly states, and I saw another YouTuber say that from the beginning, Tammy Cowins was saying that Meech didn't have nothing to do with it. That's not true. If you look at that first motion to suppress submitted by Cuffy, they reference the affidavit and they expressly state that Tammy Cowins told the DEA that at the request of Big Meech, she put Suarez and Cuffy in touch with each other, right? One time in September 2011, I remember it's on page 11 and 12, or either 12 and 13 in the motion to suppress. And then again on page 12, she says the same thing, that Big Meech told her to link up Cuffy and Suarez in order to do a large cocaine transaction. So the defense's motivation, Cuffy's defense team, and Andre Rush and Tim Rush and Gibbs's defense team, is to attack the credibility of that affidavit to get it thrown out, so that all of the wiretaps get thrown out with it, and whatever was said on them wiretaps, whether it was, gun-related issues, homicide-related issues, whatever, drug-related issues, whatever it was, they're saying, being the fact that Cromer and Tammy Cowins had a romantic relationship, it clouded their judgment. The fact that Cromer and Aguilar authorized unwarranted payments to Cowins for doing nothing, right? That, the fact that those things exist makes the affidavit inadmissible in court, no good, right? Because it was, and then Cromer, remember we talked about it the other day, Keith Cromer told her to lie when she got interviewed by the Office of Inspector General and the Office of Professional Responsibility. He told her, yo, don't tell him, we was fucking, don't tell him that. That's no good. You know what I'm saying? And she said that in court under oath, that he told her that. So what the defense is trying to do is get this affidavit thrown out, because it throws out the wiretaps and it pretty much kills the drug investigation for sure. And if there were other information on there about guns and homicides and things like that, it gets that thrown out too if some of that was captured on the wiretaps. So, that's their motivation. Now, the U.S. attorney, the government's position is, nah, we got to leave this in. What she said was truthful. You understand? This affidavit is good. So that's where we at. So now, here's Robert Lang. Robert Lang is the DEA agent from St. Louis. Mr. Welby, officer, are you aware that Tammy Cowins now says that Group Supervisor Keith Cromer told her to tell you things that were not true? Officer Lang, I have no information indicating that. Did she ever tell you anything of that nature, that Group Supervisor Cromer told me to say things that were not true? Absolutely not. Lang. Welby, about this investigation specifically, did she ever tell you that she had previously lied about any of the information that she provided to you? Lang, no. Welby, are you aware of confidential source Tammy Cowins saying that she had previously been fed information by Keith Cromer to convey that information to other DEA agents so that she could get paid for information provided? Lang, no. Are you aware that Tammy Cowins has recanted a large amount of information that she told you about Big Meech? Lang, no. Welby, rest. That's all the questions I have. Welby says, hold on, Your Honor, I got one more question. Were you aware of a sexual relationship or an inappropriate relationship between Tammy Cowins and Keith Cromer? Lang says no. Were you aware that she received money for work that she did not do or for information that she did not provide on or before August 28, 2012? Lang, I have no information indicating that. Now, the government, whose name is Riley. Riley is the U.S. attorney representing the government against Cuffy. This is his redirect examination of Officer Lang. On or before August 28th, 2012, did you have any reason or basis to suspect that there was an inappropriate relationship between Tammy Cowins and a member of the Atlanta DEA or task force? Lang, none whatsoever. Did you have any reason to suspect that there was any misconduct? No. Was there anything in your interactions with Tammy Cowins or Cromer or task force officers engaged in the case on or before August 28, 2012 that would have given you reason to suspect that any of the information from Tammy Cowins or Atlanta DEA agents was false? No. Lang, we were able to corroborate everything we received. The government, thank you. I have no further questions, Judge. Welby comes back. Recross. Would you have expected someone in DEA Atlanta to inform you of any of these activities so that truthful information could be provided? Lang, I would expect them to give us truthful information based on their role and position as a law enforcement officer, and anything less than that would be unacceptable. Welby, including full disclosure? Yes. I have no further questions, Your Honor. The government, I have a question. This is Riley. Do you have any reason at all to suspect that you were given, as of August 28, 2012, did you have any reason at all to suspect you were given less than full disclosure by the Atlanta DEA agents working on this case or Tammy Cowins? Lang, none. Mr. Riley, thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. So that was Officer Lang, who was the DEA agent from St. Louis, that after all the calls came in, August the 5th, 2012, when all the calls was coming in from Suarez trying to get in touch with Cuffy. Remember, he's calling Tammy Cowins like 14 times in 7 minutes. Like, yo, I got the truck up there. Where's Cuff? Where's Cuff? That's August the 5th. The very next day, August the 6th, this dude debriefed Tammy Cowins about what happened on the 5th, and everything worked out, and he did corroborate and make her repeat and restate that Big Meech directed her to put Suarez in touch with Cuffy. Here's another DEA officer. He takes the stand. His name is Brett Johnson. He's the one out of St. Louis too. Mr. Welby, have you learned any information that will cause you to believe that Tammy Cowins, that Keith Cromer was lying to you about the three-way telephone calls that you reported in your affidavit on August the 5th, 2012? Brett Johnson, no. If you had that information, would you have considered that to be material to the veracity of the affidavit as it is written? Veracity means the truth. Mr. Riley, he objects. I'm going to object to that speculative form of the question. He doesn't know what the information is. The question is speculative. The judge says, well, you can certainly ask him about that specific information. That's why we're here. So go ahead. The judge overrules. Welby, if you had information that Tammy Cowins has advised the authorities that there were no three-way conversations, would you believe that the affidavit as it was written would have false information? Check out Johnson, the DEA agent. If I had knowledge that Tammy Cowins advised the authorities that there is no three-way calls existed, then the information I have in the affidavit would be inaccurate on that aspect. So before y'all jump on this, he's saying in that aspect, in terms of the three-way call joint, or was my man right there listening to it on the speakerphone? Remember when we went over that last week, there was a lot of ambiguity about she was lying that Keith Cromer was there when the calls came in, and the nigga was in South Carolina with his family. They confirmed that. Then she said that she patched him in. You know, that part is a little shaky. Check me out. Welby, and if you knew that there was no three-way calls and there in fact was an agent present at the time with Tammy Cowins, because they were in a romantic relationship, do you believe that Tammy Cowins and Keith Cromer would have been providing you false information? This is Brett Johnson, the DEA. Not false information. What I'll say is, I still to this day, don't believe the information that I received from Tammy Cowins and Cromer was false in any manner. I don't think any outside relationship that's being investigated had in any way tainted the information that we received on Cuffy and Suarez. Except the fact that if you go to this point now, if you know this is what she is saying, that this is a lie, that's a totally different situation. If they Welby, so what he's saying there is, irrespective of their sexual exploits, their sexual tryst, right? That he doesn't believe that the information that Tammy Cowins gave him was a lie, right? Okay, that's what he's saying. Let's keep going. If they deliberately lied to you in order to cover up the existence of that relationship, both of them specifically lied to you, that would undermine the credibility. Is that true? The prosecution objects. The judge lets it go. Welby comes back. He's talking more about the relationship you are aware, Welby, you are aware that we have testimony in this case that Keith Cromer was in fact together with Tammy Cowins on the morning or early afternoon of August 10th, 2012 for a personal relationship. Sorry, August 5th, 2012. This is what he says. He makes a mistake. First he says August 10th, Then he corrects it to August the 5th. Okay. The fact that at least Cromer described this to you as a three-way call and he was not present at the time these calls came in, the prosecutor jumps up. Whoa, whoa, that is a misstatement of the record and a misstatement of the facts. She said he was there, okay? So Welby says, all right, let me clarify the question. He was there and your affidavit says he was not there. Correct? Brett Johnson, correct. So they tell you that the agents weren't there and there was a three-way call. The truth is the agent was there because he was in a personal relationship, and the three-way call is a lie to cover up the existence of that relationship. Brett Johnson, the agent, okay. And so what's the specific question? Welby, if you had known that information, would you have presented the affidavit to the judge without disclosing those facts? Meaning, would you have presented the affidavit to the judge without disclosing that Cromer and Tammy Cowins were in a sexual relationship? His answer, no, I wouldn't have presented the affidavit. The government comes back and basically is just trying to put a foundation under the affidavit and its truth. Yes, they were in a illicit, out-of-bounds relationship, but the government is saying it still had nothing to do with the content, the overall content and the underlying premise of the affidavit. The government, did you have any reason at all to suspect that there was an improper or any type of romantic relationship, improper relationship between Tammy Cowins and Keith Cromer? Brett Johnson, the agent, no. Was there anything about the information you received from Tammy Cowins or Keith Cromer that you thought was inconsistent with the evidence that you developed in the case? No. And in terms of the statements from CS1, Tammy Cowins, set aside the information for Keith Cromer for a moment. You had direct conversations with Tammy Cowins in relation to the events you testified about today. Is that correct? Brett Johnson, correct. And did you believe the information was accurate as of August 28, 2012, based on the totality of that information that you obtained during the investigation? Yes. Mr. Welby comes back, cross-examination. If you knew that CS1 had been given money by Keith Cromer based on falsified documents with the DEA to allow her to receive payments for things that did not, the prosecution jumps up, objects, they fight it out. The judge lets Welby ask the question. If you were aware that in addition to the sexual relationship, or even without, let me just ask it this way. If you were aware that Tammy Cowins had been receiving payments from Keith Cromer and David Aguilar for services that were not provided based on, would that have been information that you would have felt you needed to disclose to the judge? The court objects. The judge says it's okay. The prosecution objects again. The judge says it's okay. Brett Johnson, the question seemed to go to not would I have presented the affidavit knowing that, then would I have presented the information of allegations of misconduct to the judge? Are you asking? Can you answer both? Johnson, I would have. This is the DEA agent, Brett Johnson. I would have. If at any point in my employment with the DEA, I become aware of allegations of misconduct toward another agent, I will go up our chain of command like I'm supposed to. Now, if I'm aware of an inappropriate relationship between Tammy Cowins and Keith Cromer that's providing us information, I would not use that. Well, what he says is, if I'm aware of an inappropriate relationship between a confidential source and the controlling agent that's providing us information, I would not use that confidential source's information or the controlling agent's information. Would that include a group supervisor in the same situation? Johnson, yes, if I'm aware of it. Then he says, look, I wasn't aware of none of this. Welby says, I understand. And what we saw, this is Johnson, the DE agent, and what we saw, we confirmed. What we got, we confirmed. And we had no sense of unreliability at that point. Now, I still don't think to this day, I'll testify that the information outside of the calls, you're going to the three-way call and the overhears, and if they are in bed together or what they're doing. But the information on Cuffy and Suarez was untainted and resulted in an investigation, which was a proper investigation. Now, what is apparent, lies are and are involving overhears and stuff. Now that stuff is, as you can see, it's in the affidavit, and it is inaccurate if you have this testimony. You have just read the testimony. So it's just going back and forth with that, man. It's going back and forth with that. Welby, so if I understand you correctly, if you knew of either an inappropriate relationship or questionable conduct with payments to the confidential source, you would not have used that confidential source in an affidavit presented to the court. Brett Johnson, DEA agent. Anytime it would discredit the confidential source if we were aware of it, if we were aware of the misconduct. Right. So then the one thing with David Aguilar, right? They talk about it here. David Aguilar and Keith Cromer were making unwarranted payments to Tammy Cowins, right? To the tune of like $200,000, right? Now, Aguilar pled the fifth in court under cross-examination, but he exercised his garrity rights in the internal investigation, in the internal investigation, there's something called garrity rights, right? So if a public employee is being investigated internally within the government, they can exercise what is called their garrity rights, which is synonymous with invoking the Fifth Amendment, meaning that what they say in this garrity rights investigation, this internal investigation, can't be used against them to criminally bring charges against them. So they talk more about that. Then Herman cross-examines the DEA agent, and the DEA agent says, and that's the same. If I was aware of any inappropriate relationship between the confidential source and any DEA employee, especially a DEA employee involved with an investigation, I would not go forth with that information in any manner, because eventually the information would be discredited in the court of law. And then Herman asked him, and there's no amount of corroborating information that would fix that. He says no. And that's it. I'm going to stop right there. I know that was a lot. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Thank y'all for coming through. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you go follow me on my Instagram. The podcast was sold. Thank you in advance. I want to welcome all the new subscribers, all the new followers. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your comments. Keep the comments coming. And I'm going to holler at y'all later. I'm going to read the They made Keith Cromer say, nigga, get your ass here. It's Wednesday. You in Atlanta? It's Wednesday? Goddamn it, nigga, Friday morning, you better be here 8:30. They making him fly there. In 48 hours, you better be here. Not good. Not good. I'm gonna look at the Friday joint later, so I'll do another video later. All right, peace.